Hello, welcome back, and congratulations, Paul Rietzel. You're in the Vintage Super League, buddy.
Thank you. That was fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm happy to be part of the league.
Yeah, I like the victory celebration. That's what we got going on there. That's nice. What I'm really looking forward to watching your sort of. It's almost like the education of Paul Rietzel, watching you sort of lock your brain in combat with this new format. It has really been a pleasure to watch, and it showed off last round. You just kind of came at the metagame from a direction that I don't think Brian Kelly was ready for.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's three different things you can do in Vintage. You can, play the blue decks. You can try to mess with the blue decks, or you can do something totally different that no one's expecting. And I felt like if I just tried to follow one of the major paradigms of the format, I was going to just be spewing off equity to these people who know what they're doing a lot more than me. So I just upturned the apple cart basically and just said, let's play a different kind of Magic, and worked out.
Now, how much of this was you looking at other lists of things that other people had done? How much of this was you just trying to think through the format from sort of first principles?
Well, not gonna lie, I Googled myself and I looked up all the decks that I've ever made top eight with or done well with. I tried to see if any of those cards existed in vintage decks, and the only one that I could find that showed up in vintage decks was Aethersworn Canonist. So I Googled vintage decks for Aethersworn Canonist, and it just seemed like people weren't playing enough like Moxes and stuff like that in their Aethersworn Canonist decks.
Okay.
So I cut the null rods and I put in some Moxins so I could start the game on the first turn and submitted my deck.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that really is what set your deck apart from a lot of the similar sort of hate bears decks. They're usually null rod decks. Like null rod is such a hateful card, and people call it a hate bears deck, so they tend to go that direction. And then obviously you don't want a bunch of moxes in your hate bears deck. But
Right.
it seems like you found plenty of hateful bears that also were happy to come down a turn earlier thanks to the acceleration from a mox.
You have to, right? I mean, a lot
I
of
mean, yes, it makes sense. Spirit of the Labyrinth on turn one was absurd. Those
was
are
it
the best Spirit of Labyrinth. Those are probably the number one and number two best Spirit of Labyrinths I've ever seen. Your game one and three there.
right. I mean, I don't obviously don't know what was in his hand, so I'll have to go back and look at the replay. I'm assuming
I'll give you a hint. A bunch of cantrips.
right, right. Yeah, it's a really good creature, and the problem is that a lot of these decks they wanted on turn one really their only way to interact was Wasteland and Swords of Plowshares, and
Right.
by then they've ancestraled and put some Moxen into play. They might have a Jace already off of Lotus. Like it's too late, like you're playing at modern speed. You need to be playing at vintage speed. You need to be playing at ludicrous speed ideally, but yeah. So I just put my deck to ludicrous speed and played a bunch of tutus.
Yeah, and I feel like if Leonid Arbiter had been a more relevant hate bear in that second game, I think you might have been able to win all three of them. That second game felt like it was super close, and you kind of pushed him into the corner, but like Top found the Jace, and then he was kind of off to the races, and you couldn't quite knock him out.
Yeah, I played a few practice games with Kai yesterday, and the games where he was able to resolve Jace were pretty tough.
Yeah.
I can't stop it from coming into play. My creatures are all pretty expensive. They all cost 2 mana. I don't have any one drops to be able to get a turn where I play two or three things,
Yeah.
and he can often get back like a Mox that's under a relic order. So it's kind of a tough card for me to deal with. So I thought I was an underdog to Brian in the match, and a lot of that was because of how high percentage of Jace games I was going to lose.
Well, makes sense. That is the first of our four consecutive win-and-ins. So Paul's claimed a spot. We still got three spots to give out, and one of them on the line for our next match. It's going to be Stephen Menendian against David Williams. So two of the original Vintage Super League members. Steve actually won the first season. David was in that playoff. David got knocked out last year. Steve got relegated this most recent year. At least one of them's going to get back. One of them will win this matchup. Heads up. It's Doomsday against Williams is on land still, right?
Yeah, he's a standstill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doomsday against land. So, the controlish side of the blue spectrum against a combo that Steve has a lot of practice with. Should be a super fun match to watch. And then keep in mind, after this match, we've got the 2 losers bracket win-and-ins, where the loser of this match will still get another shot at it, as will Brian Kelly, who you just knocked down to the losers bracket.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I love the setup here of 4 straight win-and-in matches. So I'll try my best to be unbiased, but I think people kind of know my affinity for Dave. So, but I'm excited to watch Steve. I know he's certainly a tenured vintage master. Where I'm just a vintage Padawan. So.
All right. Well, it's time for this Padawan to cast his first Doomsday match. Our players are ready. Let's get down to the action. Hello and welcome. It is win and in time once again. Both of these guys would like to get back into the Vintage Super League. David Williams has brought a Landsteal deck with him. He's got his Crucible, but no land destruction, but he does have a handful of permission. Seems like a pretty solid draw against the Doomsday deck that Steve Menendian has brought to bear. And yeah, solid draw for Steve as well. He's got a Thoughtseize to try to clear a path. Got a Gush to draw some cards. Got a Yawgmoth's Will to try to go broken eventually. Laboratory Maniac, not exactly what he wants to draw. It does not have the signature Doomsday yet, but these draws both look pretty good. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, this seems like a classic kind of blue control deck versus combo style setup. Where Steven has to fight through the answers that David has. He's got good answers, although will Steven give him enough time for Crucible to take the game over? We'll find out.
Yeah, if David gets to play a land destruction game, that is tough for Doomsday to recover from. I mean, Steven, you're right that it's control versus combo. And the way this typically plays out is that combo needs to be the proactive deck, needs to figure out where the window is that he can sort of pull off a Doomsday. Now, a lot of times you create that window yourself. You use hand destruction cards like Thoughtseize to just clear a path. So they may just stare at each other for a little while until Steven decides he's ready to go for it. Looks like we've lost Steven's hand. Try to get that back for you.
And explain to me, imagine for out of nowhere that I don't know how the Doomsday combo works, and which is obviously I know how it works. But if I didn't, can you explain to me how it works?
The card Doomsday lets you... So, big picture, the deck has 2 ways to win. It can win with a Laboratory Maniac, where you have no library left and you draw a card. Sure. The easiest way to have no library left is to cast the card Doomsday, go down to 5 cards, and then you bootstrap your way into it with a Gush or a Preordain. Sure. Draw your Ancestral, Black Lotus, Lab Maniac. You can set up a Doomsday stack that essentially puts Lab Maniac into play and then draws from an empty library. The deck does also have Tendrils of Agony, and so a lot of where the famous complication for this deck comes in is, is this a game where I'm supposed to go for the straightforward Lab Maniac kill, or am I better off trying to set up a Tendrils kill? And sometimes with Yawgmoth's Will, you can just go broken and storm somebody out via Tendrils without ever even going through the signature card Doomsday. Mm-hmm. So it's got a lot of flexibility. And I mean, it's particularly tough. It's funny, like not seeing Steven's hand. You can almost play from David's perspective, like, what's he up to? Okay, I guess I'm not that worried about a Gush picking up lands when he hasn't played a Doomsday, but there's so many. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is a signal of one of 2 things already, right? Either he doesn't have a third land, and he needs to, he's using this as a way to kind of use the land drop for this turn, or he's going for something this turn. He's going to try to resolve some key spell this turn. He wouldn't just be picking up all of his lands just to draw 2, play a land, and say go.
Yeah, like you say, if he has no third land drop, it's not awful to just cycle through a Gush. It's not plan A for the Doomsday player. It's funny, the fact that he floated a blue and a black is actually a bit of a signal that he's not ready to go for a Doomsday. When they float black, and then replay an Underground Sea, suddenly you did find your third black mana for Doomsday.
Oh, wow, look at this. Okay.
Yeah, we got Steve's hand back. Looks like the Gush found an Ancestral. So yeah, he's gonna play an attrition game here. He's just gonna try to work his way through all of David's counters and then try to finish with a big Yawgmoth's Will.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughtseize just seems like an easy misstep for David.
Sure.
Wow, David with the main deck Mindbreak traps. We're going to be at enough spells that... Oh, but I guess he has to choose. He can either trap or force a will, but he doesn't have another blue card for the force other than the trap.
Is top a big enough threat that you want to trap it?
It's... If they play a grindy game, top is very good. So yeah, he's going to trap the top. Now, he doesn't know there's an Ancestral coming. I think David's read here is reasonable. You know, he's the same read you did. Like, why is the guy gushing on turn 3? What's he actually up to? I guess I need to stop him from having anything.
Very, very clean, smooth play here from Steven to upkeep this Ancestral. Which is, in my opinion, the perfect time to cast a spell like this. You know, if Dave's going to force it, you're forcing him to go to 2 cards in his hand without knowing what his draw step is. You don't have to discard because obviously we're on Dave's turn now. That's just good magic.
Still, David's upkeep. Finds a blue card, and ironically enough, it's a misstep.
Isn't that perfect? Yeah. Magic's great. Magic is great sometimes, the way it just immediately rewards you for clean.
I mean, this game is still very up in the air. I mean, if David can manage to force the will, the Yawgmoth's Will, Steve won't have accomplished a whole lot.
Right, and Dave is basically a waste or a strip. I don't know if it has strip or not, but he's basically...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, of course, if he has wasteland and strip. He's basically a strip miner or wasteland away from being in kind of great shape versus Steven's hand.
Wow. This is tough. Menendian's thinking during his own upkeep. He could Mystical Tutor here. What would he Mystical for? I mean, it's because he's got the ability to go Dark Ritual into Yawgmoth. So, oh, here comes Notepad. We'll have to see if our producer can get an eye on Steven's screen. He just opened up Notepad, so settle in while Steve tries to figure out what his options are. I can see, like, Dark Ritual for Yawgmoth's Will into the Dark Ritual and all the stuff in the graveyard. Like, that's all live here.
Right.
You can't miss... Go ahead.
He's missing the Lotus to make the will truly backbreaking.
Right. If that was a Vampiric Tutor, I think Vamp for Lotus would almost certainly be lethal here.
Could he just Mystical for Doomsday, Ritual Doomsday?
He can. He doesn't have a way to bootstrap him. Well, let's see. Well, if he Mystical...
Then he can play Lab Maniac, still have the Force backup with 5 cards left in his deck.
Yeah, he'll have to say go. Like, Doomsday players prefer to have something like... I mean, he's holding a Preordain, so if he waits a turn, he could potentially Doomsday and then Preordain into the top card, and he's kind of off to the races that way. You're right, though. Mystical for Doomsday is an option. He's got... I mean, Mystical gives you a lot of options, right?
Well, White Weenie players prefer to have Thalia on turn 1, but sometimes we have to just make sacrifices depending on what...
Spirit of the Labyrinth would be just as good. All right. He's decided. Mystical Tutor. Hopefully we can see what he gets. Well, I mean, we'll find out on his draw step, I suppose. This is not obvious to me. Wow. Williams goes for the misstep.
Really?
So his Force of Will protection, his Force of Will blue card is gone. But, I mean, look, when Menendian goes into the tank in his upkeep and then goes Mystical, it's hard to blame him for misstep. Wow, Steve's going to force back. Does he have it? What does he have? So he's exiled his Lab Maniac. That is no longer an option.
Dave's misstep made sense to me for a second because I was thinking Steven has all these resources, but they're stuck in his hand, right? So maybe he wants to just stop the one key spell. But I thought, oh, Steven would be so happy to get that misstep, take a draw, and continue with the game. But he actually fought over the tutor, so he must have.
He's got a plan. Is it Doomsday? What is his plan? It's Demonic Tutor? Oh, Dark Ritual for Demonic Tutor for Black Lotus, then Yawgmoth's Will, run the whole graveyard back, Tendrils kill.
Beautiful.
Got it. We were saying he wanted to Mystical for Black Lotus, but he couldn't do it. Steve's like, I got this. I can Mystical for Black Lotus. Watch me. Mystical for Black Lotus. No problem. I even get 2 bonus Storm Count and have a Demonic Tutor in my graveyard because of this.
Wow.
That was well solved. Yeah, here's the Yawgmoth's Will.
I assume David is very, very dead here.
I assume. I mean, the Storm Count is kind of only barely 10-ish. Oh, but Dave's down to 14, so it only needs to be 7. Yeah. The Ritual of the Black Lotus, that's 6 mana, DT for Tendrils. He has exactly the 4 mana he needs to cast it.
So even if Dave had not misstepped the mystical and entire force, Steve could have forced back. So Steve actually had a lock win there.
Yeah. Nope, Menendian just... Oh, he's not done. Sorry. Fast Bond, apparently. Did he not have enough Storm Count? So he DT'd for Fast Bond, which is going to allow him to play more lands, which effectively gives him more mana, and now he can Mystical for the Tendrils, preordain it into his hand, and get there that way.
Ancestral it into his hand.
Or Ancestral. Yeah. He's Gush. He's got... Like, I wasn't counting Storm. I assume it must not have already been 7. But, I mean, this...
Probably has enough to Tendrils out Dave and his next opponent.
Oh, if it carried over, this deck would be a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Menendian resolved that Ancestral, David was in trouble. They're just... Because Steven had a Force of Will backup for whatever he did, even David drawing the blue card, it doesn't matter. David only gets to counter one thing, and... Right. There was no one thing. I mean, well, whatever. It just is canceling out with Steven's force. So beautiful. I don't know if you go back, like, countering the top kind of cleared a path for the Ancestral. But, I mean, now we're trying to figure out the Psychic play, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Steven's going to go check. You don't have any more Mindbreak traps over there, do you? Anything that could, like, wipe out the entire stack? No? Okay, great. Williams concedes. On to game 2.
When your opponent has that, beautiful Doomsday draw in game 1, you try not to let, but you in the back of your mind you're thinking, I'm glad I have that second winning in coming up if this doesn't.
It's funny. Steven played to make sure there was no Mindbreak trap coming. I think Williams only has the 1 in the main deck. Like, that was the one thing that Steven's Fast Bond line did give him, was it gave him the ability to Thoughtseize. Mm-hmm. Like, my line, I would have just tapped out for Tendrils. I would have gotten destroyed if my opponent had a Mindbreak trap, or a Flusterstorm for that matter. So Steve's line seemed much safer.
I played enough matches with full deck list information in which I have, done something like that. And I have also Thoughtseized my opponent when I should know their entire hand is land and, taken 2. Sometimes if you have a win locked in, you just fire off the embarrassing Thoughtseize because there's no reason not to,
I agree. Totally agree. Wow, so Menendian's bringing in his Trigon Predators.
And Dave, I can't see. Did he take out all of his plows? Nope, he left them in. Wow, might be next leveling here a little bit.
Yeah, having a removal spell for the Lab Maniac is interesting. Like, sometimes you can randomly mize a game win that way. Mm. It's tough, though. Usually they're like, they're throwing a Thoughtseize at your hand to clear a path before they risk their actual victory condition. I mean, but then again, they try to. That doesn't mean they always can. And like, the more skill.
I've been playing a lot of Modern to get ready for Grand Prix Los Angeles this weekend, and when Ad Nauseam kills you with Lab Maniac, it's usually with 4 Pact of Negation backup. So obviously, this deck is not going to have 4 Force of Will backup all the time. But usually, when they kill you with Lab Maniac, they have some way to defend it. They're not going to just draw the last card in their deck and hope.
It depends how hard it was when you built the Doomsday stack. Like, how much pressure were you under?
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually, now that you mention it, I'm mildly surprised he doesn't have, like, 1 pact he can throw into a stack. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes you'll see a misdirection in that spot as well. All right, game 2. Steve Menendian is now 1 game away from re-securing his spot in the Vintage Super League. David Williams needs to win a couple. He's got turn 1 standstill. That's kind of exciting.
He also has Strip Mine Crucible if he wants
to. Oh, yes, he does, doesn't he? Excuse me for burying the lead.
Although he
The,
may
se-
just want to get the standstill out.
the sequencing is a little tricky.
Yeah.
I think I would turn one standstill if I was him. Like, maybe it gets Force of Will. That's great. You cleared a path for your Crucible. Maybe it doesn't, and you just play lands for a little while, including you get to throw a strip mine in.
Right. I also think I would turn one standstill because he's got a 4 mana hand and no defense. So he would really like to force Steven to crack standstill prior to any sort of shenanigans.
Right. I think they're both supposed to keep. Menendian's hand only has the one land, and it's very wastable.
Right. But he's on the draw. He's got a brainstorm, time walk.
Yeah, I think you keep it. It's just not awesome. All right, let's see how Williams wants to play this. Oh, he's going to lead Brainstorm.
Interesting.
If he finds a Mox, he can still stand still. He finds Arcane Laboratory. That's a magic card. Misstep as well. Can't quite see what the last card is. Oh, Force of Will. That's not a bad Brainstorm. Force of Will, Mental Misstep, Arcane Laboratory. I'll take that.
It's crazy how these two players' hands match up against one another. Really smart play by Dave, also hiding the strip mine on top of his library in case he gets thought seized. It looks like maybe he doesn't have a second land.
Wow, do you go Crucible or Arcane Lab first?
I didn't see what the second card is that he put back with.
It's an island.
It's an island, so then I would lead Arcane Lab here.
It's funny how he has the misstep to cover Steve's Nature's Claim, except Arcane Lab would prevent him from casting a second spell if he just did Arcane Lab, if he just tapped out for a 3-mana Arcane Lab there. So instead, he's leading with the Strip Mine, which I mean, look, the Doomsday mana base can be tight. I kind of like this.
It's also a play that respects Gush more.
That's a great point. If you let them get to 2 islands and they can gush their way out from under a strip mine, that is a really good point. Okay, Menendian floated blue, goes for the Brainstorm. Yeah, I think you misstepped this. He paid blue for the misstep. That means he can't stand still. Which I guess he didn't want to, because his plan is to play three mana hosers on the next 2 turns. Menendian top decks an Underground Sea. That was kind of important.
I mean, specifically, he wants to get Crucible out before the standstill, right? Because if he gets Crucible and standstill out, you can put it on the board.
I mean, Arcane Lab is also insane against Menendian. They're both. I mean, the sequencing here is not obvious to me. Right, by leading with the Crucible, it's less likely to resolve because of Force of Will. And this is, I think, why Williams was slow rolling that Standstill the whole time. I actually like his line a lot better now that I realize Standstill is his blue card for Force of Will. I should have caught that right away. Forces cancel out, and Crucible is going to resolve. Menendian needs to draw green mana for his Nature's Claim right here, or he's going to have a lot of trouble ever casting any spells.
He's in...
Yeah, this looks like it's going to game 3. I do not see how Steve Menendian is going to get out of this.
Well, he's still just well, now he's in big trouble. I was going to say he's still just a fetch away from being able to find green. But he's about to be locked.
Basic Island.
Which if he was getting wasted would be nice. But he's getting stripped.
Yeah, and he needs green. Like, why couldn't you be a forest? Or a fetch land? Even a bayou would have been good enough here.
Dave left for 1 turn. He decided to leave his Crucible vulnerable. But now...
I like the way Dave played it. And yeah, now, as you say, he's got Mana Drain available. He has no reason to drop his guard. Second Arcane Lab might actually be worth dropping your guard for.
Well, Isn't it more likely that that's going to be relevant to exile the Force of Will later than it is? You're gonna. I don't know. It's close.
I don't think Menendian can win while the card's in play, and it effectively pre-counters his first enchantment removal spell.
So we might see Steve. Um, we might see the rare situation where Steven plays Misty. Dave actually strips it on end step to force Steven to use his own Nature's Claim. He'll respond by cracking the Misty, of course, but then Dave can just strip whatever land he finds with the Misty on his turn, so he
Yeah.
might as well.
It takes 2 strips to waste to get rid of a fetch land, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think it's
But with
that is how Williams would play this.
With Drain Arcane, I think that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah, this is pretty sick.
I've definitely ghost quartered twice my fair share of fetch lands in my life. It's all about pattern matching. That's magic.
Makes sense. Wow, Menendian would rather discard than run out that fetch to be wasted.
That's just kind of a nice draw for Dave. He's going to be able to start thinning his deck out of all of.
Yeah, he just drew Thawing Glacier. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Every turn, he can put the fetch land into play and go get another land out of his library and into play.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the Thawing Glacier.
Which obviously Steven, by deciding not to play the Misty and instead discarding Doomsday, is playing for some sort of a longer game. He's trying to sculpt a hand with some counter magic so he can resolve the Nature's Claim and then try to. I don't know exactly, but
yeah, no, I don't see it either.
He had some sort of a longer term plan in play, but now Dave has another form of inevitability in the, as you mentioned, the Thawing Glaciers.
Polluted Delta finds a Tundra. And yeah, Menendian still content to discard.
And if you're curious at home right now in Las Vegas, Dave's face looks exactly like his picture. He's just sitting there cracking up, just really enjoying himself.
Yeah, I may have since declared this over and called for a game 3 a little early. I think you were right. There was a window where Fetch could potentially get the green mana to blow up Crucible, but I can no longer imagine how Menendian gets back in this game.
Well, I mean, I imagine all of his plans involve a turn where he plays a fetch, Nature's Claims, Arcane Laboratory, plays a Lotus. Dave has absolutely nothing,
Maybe, I mean, it's like kind of, maybe it's Moxen into Trigon Predator.
Well, my play works, right?
We can't. What's your play?
If you just wait until he drew Lotus, Nature's Claimed, Arcane Laboratory, played a Lotus, willed Lotus, some other stuff.
Sure, but the Nature's Claimed on Arcane Lab is never resolving.
Oh yeah, no. I know he had no chance at any point. I'm saying I'm trying to
from Menendian's perspective.
Yeah, from his perspective.
Fair enough. Oh, Williams risks the Mox Pearl. It's funny, Menendian let that fetch land just get wastelanded. He did not go get a land.
This is really kind of pure magic here. Screw first strike and creatures and stuff like that. How about no permanence against and just saying go?
Against Arcane Lab, Crucible Lock.
Utilizing to great effect the cleanup step. I mean, this is good stuff.
I mean, Menendian doesn't even have very many green sources, right? So he kind of, his ability to even sculpt that perfect turn is going to be limited by the fact he's got 2 tropical islands in his deck, and that's it for green mana. Yeah, 1 basic forest in the sideboard, which presumably came in.
His best bet is like Dave accidentally double clicks on Strip Mine. I've done it. he may also just want to see what's in Dave's deck a little bit also here.
Sure, he's getting some insight into how Williams sideboarded. That's fair. Williams eventually will draw one of his 3 Mishra's Factories. You'd think. He's like halfway through his deck, right? Just barely over 30 cards left?
Yep.
Oh, or is that 39? All right, second Arcane Lab. It's pretty easy for David to play main phase spells when Steve doesn't even have lands. So hypothetically, let's say Williams' bottom 3 cards are Mishra, Mishra, Mishra. Steve can deck him?
Mm-hmm.
Factory, factory, factory. I'm guessing that Williams sideboarded out Monastery Mentor.
Doesn't he have Jace?
Well, yeah. He must have some of this left, right? Like, well, Jace can't win the game if it's on the bottom. Monastery Mentor can... If he's got 2 Monastery Mentors in his deck, then he can actually win the game even if they're the bottom 2 cards. Plus, it means the Mishra's Factories are above them.
Not with 2 Arcane Labs out.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, no, those Arcane Laboratories probably mean he's not a Mentor deck. Like, I would guess Williams has the Mentors in the sideboard. Not positive, like maybe leave one in, but I mean, he's got 3 Arcane Labs. Obviously, Arcane Lab and Monastery Mentor are not exactly friends.
Meanwhile, maybe Dave boarded out all of his mini conditions, hoping that Steven would scoop, and now he's there panicking, thinking about what can I possibly...
It's pretty clear from this Menendian doesn't have any other plans tonight. He's content to just hang out, watch some Magic with the rest of us. He's not really playing Magic. He's more watching it.
See, yeah, Shuhei called no scooping in the first match, so the rest of us...
Oh, I see.
Kai had to sit there and take that for an hour.
And interaction. Padre gets mental misstepped. Williams is like, take 2.
Yep.
What on earth is Menendian's plan? I guess if he can resolve a couple of Moxes, then he can sack fetch for Tropical for Trigon. But he can't possibly think that's going to resolve, can he?
Yeah, again, I think this is probably one of the situations where it would take a fairly major... I think Dave would have to step in it a little bit here, in order for...
And these clocks are live, though. Like, Menendian is capable of playing a 20-plus minute game 3. Like, even from Menendian's perspective, like, he might actually turn a profit by... At some point, he should concede to preserve clock for game 3. Given that he knows his own tendency to go into the tank sometimes.
Or just start mashing F6 on every turn.
Chat is calling for good old school PT stories.
Good old school PT stories. Huh.
When did you actually start playing? Like, how far back does your career go?
My Pro Tour career?
Well, not a Magic career. Just, actually.
Actually, my first ever sanctioned tournament was a Grand Prix Boston that you lost the finals of.
I did lose the finals of that tournament. That was your first sanctioned tournament? That's awesome.
I signed up for a DCI number there, yep.
Okay.
I got to the
that helps.
They're like, you need a DCI number. I'm like, what? I didn't bring one. They still let me play. I was playing White Weenie, as obviously, and I couldn't afford Cataclysms because they were $8 each. So I just played Warrior Angel instead.
Nice.
And in the I was 2-2. In the 5th round, I played against Michael Lecanto. You might know that name.
Pro Tour 1 champion.
Tour 1 champion. He
And
was
local hero. This is a Grand Prix Boston.
sorry. This is round 6, so he was 3-2, and I was 3-2. Him from 0-2 from the buys, and me 3-2 the hard way. And he was playing Sly. I was playing White Weenie, and in game 3 I went turn 2 warmth, turn 3 warmth, turn 4 warmth, and then he had to shock my Soul Ward, and I gained 8.
That's awesome.
And he used the choice word to say that that's the way his day was going, to lose to a 12-year-old basically.
Did you make day 2?
No, I went 4-3.
But you made sure Mike Lecanto didn't make day 2.
I did knock Michael Lecanto out of Grand Prix Boston. Yeah,
Very nice.
my first sanctioned tournament.
My wife played that Grand Prix in addition to me, and she was playing. She got into she didn't make day 2, but she played a team tournament on the second day, and gets paired against a team with I think it had Hammer on it. Sean Renier, who Pro Tour 2 champion, also kind of local, and apparently tried to explain. She recognized him, but her teammates did not. And so she leans over and stage whispers, "He used to be really good at Magic," but loud enough that everybody could hear it.
I walked by Hammer's feature match on day 1 of that tournament, and he had 4 ravenous baboons in play.
Yeah, this is Wrath Block constructed.
Yeah.
I was playing Counter Phoenix. Finkel beat me in the final with Survival.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually one of my favorite judge rulings. I was playing against Steve O'Mahony Schwartz late in the tournament, and it was funny. Finkel was led to Swiss the whole way. He was the end boss, and you had to get through his minions to just claw your way up the standings to get to him. So you had to go through Steve-O to get to Finkel, which just felt like the perfect video game end boss story to me. And I'm playing against Steve-O, and I think it's a win and in for top 8, but the loser can win the next one. And Steve, he beats me. He casts a lobotomy, and I have Shard Phoenix is the only way I can possibly win. So resolved lobotomy hitting my Shard Phoenix, I'm just cold. I can't possibly win. So I concede. I'm I don't want to let him. It's game 3. I'm still planning to win the next round to make top 8, which I do wind up doing. Oh my God, there's a Mistress Factory in play. All right, we'll get back to that. Things might happen though. So I just scoop up game 3, and they're no, you're not allowed to concede. Because this is we're talking, this is 1998, I think?
98, yeah.
Right, people are still working out the rules. It used to be that concessions were illegal. And I'm I don't want to let him look through my deck. What do you mean I can't concede? I can't possibly win. I'm walking away from the table. Nat Fairbanks is the judge. Nat comes over, I'm Nat, what's the penalty for me conceding when it's not legal to concede? Game loss? That's fine. Match loss? It's fine. I'll be over there waiting for the next round. It's what do you mean I can't concede?
Yeah.
They made concessions legal pretty shortly after that tournament.
That's wild. Yeah, it was wild times. The first game that I ever played of sanctioned Magic, my opponent gained infinite life with Earthcraft, Workhorse, Spike Feeder, Recurring Nightmare.
That deck actually did win a Grand Prix. Did not get me into the top 8 at Worlds. It was very sad. I thought we broken it. It was sort of before combo decks were really a thing. This is the block before Urza Saga even came out. We had this crazy Earthcraft combo deck, but basically had to draw Earthcraft to do anything with it. And I did not draw very many Earthcrafts on day 3 of Worlds.
It has to be the least impressive card that's banned in Legacy, right?
Earthcraft?
Yeah.
Land Tax is no longer banned. That was it for a while.
Yeah.
God, I did some nasty. Land Tax was insane. Again, back in the 90s.
But nowadays, we just look at Land Tax and you can just tell how silly that card is, right? When you look at Earthcraft in a vacuum, you can tell things that maybe it could do, but it doesn't look like a card that should be so insanely degenerate. It's obviously in context that you realize how good it is.
Menendian's going to break a standstill so that he can duress David Williams, so that he can see what's in his hand and understand what sideboard cards to play around in game 3. And Williams is why would I let you see my hand? I don't want you to have any information. Let me just throw a mental misstep at that. The edges these guys are playing for right now are teeny tiny. They're just they both know Williams is winning this game. It's really just an information battle in terms of what's going to happen in game 3.
This is like if you ever watch mixed martial arts, like a clinch fight against the cage, where it looks like neither person is actually even moving, but there's a ton of things going on. They just, for the layperson, might not be the most exhilarating thing to watch.
That seems like a fair description of this match. Not the most exhilarating thing to watch. Oh, he does still have Monastery Mentor in the deck. Who cares if there's 2 Arcane Labs in play?
Nope. Steve's gonna stop that in a heart.
Crazy. Mishra's Factory? Attack?
I'm
6
not
more
gonna lie.
turns.
I checked Brian's deck list like 6 times during the match to make sure he didn't have Daze in it. Like walking into Daze is like my biggest phobia in all formats.
So every time I played Merfolk in VSL, I played exactly 1 Daze.
Right.
Just because I thought people would overplay around it.
Yeah. Did they?
It's hard to know for sure. I would sideboard it out most of the time too, but it was fun to just like in that deck I would always have like random one-ofs to just make people play around them since we have public deck lists.
I actually looked at playing Merfolk if I had to play in the 8-man next week.
Wow, Force of Will is going to get pointed at Mox Sapphire here. Menendian finally drew a Mox, a mana source that can't get wasted. And Menendian's like, I'm done. I played 30 turns to see if I could resolve Mox Sapphire. You figured it out. You Force of Will my Mox in, and now I really am done. So on to game 3.
Randy, what percent of VSL games have ended due to a hard cast Force of Will on Mox Sapphire?
Yeah, I think that might be the first.
Wow. So maybe he was just trying to break new ground.
Wanted to set them. Yeah. Forest is in his sideboard? How is basic Forest in Menendian's sideboard right now? You're playing against a Wasteland deck. Isn't that why you have it? That seems crazy to me.
He's the expert. Oh, he has Massacre? Yeah.
You didn't even think of that one when you went through your list of White Weenie Hoser cards, did you?
I think we brought Massacre up. It's just too nightmarish to even really consider.
No, it floats around as a one-of for sure.
Yikes. Maybe I'll make it more popular now.
Ah. So Merfolk, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I like Merfolk.
They're good.
I really want to play the card Divert.
All right, game 3 with a spot in the Vintage Super League on the line. Menendian has played every season. Williams has played all but 1 season. The loser does get to play another winning in next round, but they'd rather get it done here. David has to mulligan his first draw. Now he's got Force of Will, he's got a Wasteland, he's got a turn 2 Mentor if he doesn't use his Wasteland right away.
And Steven 7 is certainly very good and never hang you consider mulligan, but not a broken hand with a bunch of restricted cards.
Steve's draw? Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere yet.
I'm sorry, it does have some restricted cards, but it's certainly
Lotus Petal.
It's not a turn 1 kill, that's for sure.
No, he's got a Ponder and he's got a Fetch Land, so he's got the ability to find stuff, but yeah, this is one of those hands Doomsday can get sometimes where it's just like, if the top of his deck doesn't cooperate, that hand will go absolutely nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
He's also only going to have 1 black source, which is presumably he's going to get an Underground with a Misty. If that gets Wastelanded, he could be having color problems.
And he's just, wow.
He's going to pass the turn with Flusterstorm up instead of casting a Ponder.
These guys are advanced.
You would have just pondered? Well, the thing is, Ponder is better if you can grab the 1 card you want and then crack your Fetch Land. So, this line lets him go turn 2, Ponder off the Trop, crack Fetch to shuffle away the 2 I don't want.
I'm just not that patient, is my point.
You probably don't want the blue card. Sometimes you have to be patient with them. It's tough when they say sorcery.
I mean, the basic heuristic when you're playing these sort of combo decks is you think, how fast can I Goldfish against no resistance? And obviously it's catastrophic to not Ponder on 1 if you're trying to just Goldfish. playing against Dave's deck with Force of Will and Mental Misstep and Mindbreak Trap is about as far from goldfishing as you could possibly be. So
Yeah.
Steven's play makes a lot of sense in the context of this particular matchup. It just offends my, very base sensibility play combo. So I'm sure it's right, but it's just weird.
Yeah, the weird thing about the vintage combo decks is that often they're also blue decks,
Right.
right? You have almost as much permission in a Doomsday list as Williams does. Like, Williams went all the way to Mana Drain, and that sort of gives him the edge, but he's still only up a couple of counters on what Menendian's got. Brainstorm, Vampiric Tutor, Yawgmoth's Will are his 3 cards. Wow. Brainstorm, Vampiric Tutor, Yawgmoth's Will?
Brainstorm pretty attractive here.
I mean, Yawgmoth's Will is attractive long term.
But he's pretty short on mana to make Yawgmoth's Will effective, and he's pretty likely to utilize even more resources with Force of Will. So maybe
And he doesn't. I mean, he's got Ritual Lotus Petal that sort of let the will turn a 1 mana profit. Fetch land gives it sort of a 2 mana profit, but he doesn't do anything right now. Like, what is he Yawg willing back? Right, a Ponder and maybe a Brainstorm.
vamping for Ancestral is something that's pretty attractive, given the 2 Force of Wills in his hand.
He has not cracked his fetch land yet. He drew Brainstorm off the Ponder, so he kept. We don't know which card is on top right now, but he's given himself the option to either draw that card or shuffle, depending on how this turn goes. Williams, I think you just go. Oh, he goes Wasteland. I would have been tempted to go Monastery Mentor.
Yeah,
right. He can go Ruby.
How risky it is to waste into possible gush there. I mean,
got away with that one.
If Menendian gushes, then he's all of a sudden got 9 cards in his hand against just Tundra.
So Menendian put the Vampiric Tutor on top and did not shuffle, so has no land drop here. But he chose to draw Vampiric Tutor with his draw step.
Yeah, I would expect that if he left that on top, it's because he's going to go find Underground and then maybe vamp for Ancestral on Dave's end step.
But I mean, the top card of his library is currently Yawgmoth's Will.
Right, but I think that given the Force of Wills in his hand and the fact that Dave hasn't cast Force, Mindbreak Trap, or Misstep in this game, it's really likely he's going to need significantly more resources to even resolve a Yawgmoth's Will, not to mention the fact that a Yawg Will doesn't do anything right now.
All reasonable.
Then again, I missed him mystical tutoring for Lotus last game. So. Could be a no-pet situation.
I mean, I guess there's a Vampiric Tutor involved. He's got a Brainstorm and a Vamp Tutor. His mana all sucks. It's a tricky spot. Yeah, I mean, I think you ship the turn. There's no reason to think before David's end step. Wow, Arcane Lab.
It looks like my line is something he's considering at least.
Huh. So Williams once again has the ability to go land Mox 3 mana Thing with Force backup. Williams can also leave up blue for Mana Drain.
Right. I'd be tempted to play Mentor here, and if it gets forced, just say, fine. That's forced.
Yeah. I like that line. Leaving up Mana Drain's also quite defensible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's leaving up 2 counters, essentially.
Sure. And then next turn, he gives him the chance to play Mentor and a spell on the same turn with the Ruby. A lot going on here. This is interesting.
This is a great game. And Menendian chooses not to shuffle once again, chooses to draw the Yawgmoth's Will. Okay. Now, apparently, it's time to Brainstorm. So he sacks Lotus Petal for Brainstorm after drawing spell off that Ponder. What do you do if you're David Williams? Do you Mana Drain this Brainstorm?
Definitely.
The dude just missed 2 land drops in a row, and he has a fetch land in play.
There's no doubt I'm Mana Draining this Brainstorm.
I'm with you.
I love this play.
And now Menendian He can crack his fetch land and point to Flusterstorm at that mana drain, which will work, but then it means he doesn't get to shuffle post Brainstorm. He can also force a will if he wants to preserve the ability to shuffle after he brainstorms. Wow, that is a tough spot. Like if he cracks fetch to Flusterstorm, then it's efficient card-wise, and he'll still have a Force of Will, but he could just brainstorm lock himself. I guess the Vamp Tutor means you're not actually brainstorm locking yourself. Yeah, I think I would crack this fetch land in Flusterstorm. Vamp Tutor means you can't actually get brainstorm locked. Because you can always, I mean, barring some sort of wasteland shenanigan. Alright, there's the Misty.
Wait a second. Is there a way? Forces. He goes ritual, vamp in response to his own brainstorm, get Lotus.
Alright, so Flusterstorm on this mana drain is gonna work. 3 copies. Williams can't do anything about that. Williams does have the option to let the Flusterstorm counter his mana drain and then force a will the original brainstorm.
Now
I don't know that that's worth it, though. I think that Arcane Laboratory is more valuable than this brainstorm. I think. Yeah, he lets the brainstorm resolve. Oh, how's that? How about Underground Sea, Fetch Land, Ancestral Recall?
Well, I think Steven's plan of drawing Ancestral naturally is way better than my plan of vamping for it.
Fair. That was a good brainstorm. Wow, that was crazy good.
All these players seem to be using the strategy of putting really good cards in their deck so that they can draw them, whereas I did not use the same strategy.
Look, you're the only one who's won a spot so far.
Just think about how hard this game would be for these guys with an Arbiter in play.
Thalia? Thalia gets the game be easy. Just let's never cast anything ever. Wow.
I almost played Grand Abolisher.
Is that the you can't cast anything on my turn guy?
Yeah.
I might be better than Relic Warder.
Relic Warder was good for me.
He was? That was the game you lost.
No, not tonight, but 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. I have no idea how Menendian is supposed to play this brainstorm from here. I just know he's got lots of good options. Question is, if Williams draws a blue card, then he can go Arcane Laboratory with Force of Will backup, and I think that just shuts off everything Steven can do, right? Because Steven can only counter once with his current hand.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Steven, I would be tempted to put a couple of these black cards back on my deck. Play a land, and then fire off an Ancestral. What the heck?
He put back the fetch land.
Okay, that makes sense. And
He's going to Ancestral into the cards. He's like, I like all these. I want to keep all of them.
Sure, totally reasonable.
And now Williams, again, has the ability to force a will pitching his Arcane Lab. But is that Arcane Lab just more valuable than the Ancestral? Tough spot. I like it. He lets the Arcane Lab resolve. I mean, lets the Ancestral resolve, holding onto his Arcane Lab. David needs to draw a blue spell.
Yeah, blue.
If David draws a blue spell, oh, it's not a blue spell.
He might be dead.
Things look bad. Not gonna lie. He's gonna hold Force of Will, but
Vamp for Lotus.
Yeah.
Vamp for Lotus, Ritual, Lotus, Yogg-Will, Force Your Force, Lotus, Ritual, Vamp, Ancestral, you're dead.
Yeah. The only thing Menendian has to worry about is Force blue card plus Mindbreak Trap. And that is not the world that we're actually living in.
Yeah, I'm going for it.
If you're Menendian, yeah. Yeah, me too.
Even as a pedal, I mean, he's got the world. What I said is enough, but he has the world if he resolves his will.
Well, he has to resolve Yawgmoth's will.
Yeah.
He can defend it once. But I'm with you. My opponent's only got 3 cards in his hand.
There's so many lotuses to choose from. Which one shall I choose? I'd go with the black one here. Lotus Noir.
Yeah, we are in Menendian's upkeep. Seems like you have already figured out his lines. See, this vintage casting Doomsday is easy. There were no actual Doomsdays involved in this match, but that's okay.
There might be a slower line that he elects to choose that plays around Force of Will, blue card, Mindbreak Trap. You know, like
that is the question.
I wouldn't put getting
like what if he just gets a blue card and then like Ritual Yogwill with double force back?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think I'm trying to kill him.
He could get a Thoughtseize.
Like Dave didn't Mindbreak Trap Ancestral last turn.
Right.
You know? Come on.
Yeah, it's the same recipe Menendian used in game 1, right? He resolved an Ancestral. He naturally drew and then resolved an Ancestral. And then by the next turn, he was able to get off a Yawgmoth's Will.
Right. I mean,
these games were super close. I'm not convinced. Okay, Vamp for Demonic Tutor is his plan. Wow, it's a fast bond line. Props once again to our producer Athena Huey for capturing Steve's screen and letting us understand what he's thinking about. Yeah, this is off Menendian's screen.
Should be called Slow Bond.
It's not a very fast bond. That's certainly true.
By the way, you see Dave's face right now? Right now he's got his head on his desk like this. I think he's got a pretty solid feeling that he's dead right now.
Yeah. Oh my god, he doesn't have a Tendrils of Agony in his deck? You've got to be kidding. He doesn't have Tendrils of Agony in his deck and has to go for a crazy mentor kill? What on earth? Wow, he has to detour through a Doomsday. Because he sideboarded out Tendrils of Agony. I mean, it'll probably work, but it's kind of tough. Like, he has no card drawing in his hand.
I mean, even if he just DTs for Lotus and does all
it's like, should be winnable. I should have this. I've got Yawgmoth's Will. I've got Vampire Tutor resolving. I can Yawgmoth's Will this turn with Force backup. Oh, and now he's... Wow. Unbelievable. Okay. It's like, did I need to save another 5 minutes on my clock? Maybe I should have conceded game 2 a little earlier. I don't think David concedes.
No.
I think David makes you show him the tendrils, right?
This is weird.
This is very weird. I'm quite surprised he sideboarded out tendrils. All right, ritual resolves. Like, Menendian can't say go. After he casts Doomsday, that Mentor is just going to kill him. All right, here's the Demonic Tutor. David has to decide when to point his Force of Will at something. No. It's probably not the Demonic Tutor. He did, in fact, just Vampiric for Demonic Tutor. Yes, that's what happened. Which would make a lot more sense if he was trying to generate Storm Count. I mean, it still makes some sense in that... So his plan is to Yawgwill to make his hand good enough that he can then Doomsday and bootstrap his way into his Doomsday stack because he has good stuff in his hand.
Right.
I think that's
Right. His value judgment was that the constraint was not going to be mana; it was going to be card quality.
yeah. He just said I'd rather have Demonic Tutor in my and Vamp Tutor in my graveyard than my deck.
Which is not how I would have played it, but is probably.
It this line got a lot harder once we realized that he sideboarded out his tendrils. All right, I bet we're going back to the notebook. Somehow this is still an exciting game.
I get why they call the deck Doomsday, because it's like, you know, there's this feeling of impending doom, but it takes forever.
He goes Petal Lotus Ritual out of the graveyard. Gets a Doomsday. I'm actually not convinced he's got this.
I just want to say,
this is hard. Thank. I'm happy to let you do the commentary, Steve. I agree with you. Because his mana is actually tight. He only gets one lane drop if he doesn't have a fast bond. And if he uses one of his tutors to go get a fast bond, then he doesn't have the tutor. If he casts a Doomsday and says go, he's at real risk of just plain dying to the Monastery Mentor. So like sometimes with Doomsday, you cast a Doomsday, you say go, and your way of getting into your stack of 5 cards is just to use your draw step on your next turn. But that seems hella scary if you sack half your life and there's a Mentor across the table. Yeah, this is Yogg-Will with 1 mana floating. And he's already used his land drop now. He played the Tropical, right?
Right, so he has 5 mana.
Yeah, now I presume Williams is going to force this.
Yeah, of course.
But David also has to wonder, why the hell has he been thinking for 10 minutes? You know?
Yeah.
But whatever. You can't yet Yawgmoth's Will Resolve. Yeah, this is where you point your Force of Will. Bye-bye, Arcane Laboratory. I wish I'd got to play you, but...
You get to utilize that F6 now, which is just so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so it points his Force of Will. He's hoping this was Steve's problem, that he couldn't defend Yogg-Will. Nope, that was not Steve's problem. Here's the Force. And now, if Steven had thought a little bit less, he might be expecting a scoop here, but game 3, I don't think Williams has any reason to do anything but hit F6.
May not even F6, because he may want to make Steven play around stuff like Misstep or Trap. Although he can have a pretty good idea it's not Trap now.
Yeah, Mindbreak Trap would have countered the Yogg-Will there. All right. Ritual Petal. So 3, 4, 5. Lotus makes 8 mana. What are you going to do with this 8 mana, Stephen Menendian?
So what does he have for card draw? He has a Preordain, an Ancestral, a Brainstorm, and a Ponder.
A Demonic Tutor and a Vamp.
I have to imagine that's enough.
I mean, what's the line? Tell me the line if it's obviously enough.
I would tell you the line, but I don't have Notepad open right now.
Your computer did not come equipped with this powerful device?
No, I only have Word.
Okay. Demonic Tutor, sure. All right, he's decided Fast Bond is the answer.
Isn't it
Great. Now he gets more mana. He can pay life to put lands into play from his graveyard, which there's a couple. There's one more fetch land, 2 fetch lands. Now he Ancestrals into Gush Gush. Wow. Okay, that's a lot of card draw. Obviously, Fast Bond lets him replay the lands he picks up from the Gush, so Ancestral into Gush Gush, Highly recommended. That probably just opened it up.
Yeah, so now he has, doesn't he have the mana now to Doomsday,
Uh,
Lab Maniac, draws library?
yes.
Yes. With Forcible backup if he needed it. But
Yeah, I think he's got it now.
yeah.
Getting the 2 gushes off the Ancestral means see, the thing that he needed is once you Doomsday, like, your Yogg-Will is still in effect, but there's no cards in your graveyard. So once he casts Doomsday, he has to be done with his graveyard.
Right.
So he needed to get card draw stuff into his hand to use post Doomsday. The 2 gushes mean he has that now. So presumably it's Vamp Tutor for Doomsday. We'll use 1 gush to draw the Doomsday, or, well, whatever, preordain out of the yard. So Vamp Tutor for Doomsday, preordain into Doomsday, cast Doomsday, lose half your life, then gush into the top 2 cards. Does his life actually get tough here? Like, he's going to sack half his life at some point. He kind of needs to keep replaying lands with Fash Bond. His Doomsday stack, he's looking at... God, he loves building Brainstorm Doomsday stacks. I don't know why he loves putting Brainstorm into a Doomsday stack. It just makes the math more difficult. You draw 3, but you put back 2, so your library is 2. It's... Can't you just get Ancestrals like the... Well, he can't get Ancestral. The Ancestral's exiled. So he has to do this Doomsday stack without an Ancestral Recall.
Well, with the idea being just like, if you Maniac, 2 cards left and Brainstorm, that's enough.
Yeah, no, that's probably what he's going to have to do.
Yeah.
If he gushes into... Whatever. Let's see. He has a Preordain in his hand too. So Gush plus Preordain plus Brainstorm gets him lets him deck himself. Right? Draw 2, draw 1, and then the draw 3 half of first part of Brainstorm will kill himself. Is his mana okay? Should be. Wow, what we took a circuitous route to get here, but it looks like Menendian's Ancestral. Wow, he Ancestraled twice this game, and they were both great.
Dave won 2 new reality shows. Wow, Steve. Make sure you check out MasterChef on Fox, starting in June.
Beginning of June, right?
Correct.
I have watched that show in the past. I'll certainly be watching it with David on it. I was telling the story last week, but when I asked him if he wanted to do commentary for the last season of VSL, he said, I can't. I'm sequestered for a reality show. Mm-hmm. So I got to speculate. Like, he couldn't tell me.
Right.
Like, which one is he on?
Yeah.
It's a fun game I get to play in my own head for a couple of weeks. One game apiece. It's the winner of this game, which sure looks like it's going to be Steven Menendian, gets a spot in the Vintage Super League. David Williams drops to the losers bracket, assuming Menendian can find his way through this. Come on. Surely. He's still figuring.
Is this, again, another record? I think this is the first 4 notepad turn. So we are breaking new ground here.
Who knows how many notepads he was using before we upgraded into Athena on the production side of the show. It's funny. I saw people in chat earlier saying they were looking forward to 15-minute Menendian Doomsday turns. Okay, try to give the people what they want.
So the good news for Dave, if you're sitting in Las Vegas right now, is this puts him into a rematch with already vanquished Shuhei Nakamura, who he defeated in the very first match of the entire, or very close to it.
Yeah, that works out to be a rematch. And it was a match that Williams has already won once.
That'll be the last clean winning in until the last match of next week's 8-man.
Did we lose Paul's mic? He got really soft from me all of a sudden.
Oh, you hear me? It's getting late.
I think there might actually be a loose connection, Paul, because you got super loud and then disappeared.
Testing.
All right. 4 Underground Seas. 6 life left. Vampiric put the Doomsday on top. He gushed into it. Now he casts the Doomsday. Williams has got to be rolling his eyes. Like, why did I not get killed by tendrils 10 minutes ago? Williams also probably wondering why he can't have an East Coast player sitting in the loser's bracket waiting for him. No time zone edge on Shuhei. Shuhei's only been awake for a couple of hours.
Shuhei, I believe, is an East Coast player. The East Coast of Japan.
This game's been crazy. Steve's clock has now gone red. We are under the 5-minute mark. Wow, all because he sideboarded out Tendrils of Agony. But he's got 5 mana. He's got Gush, so he just gushes into Laboratory Maniac and anything. Casts Preordain into Brainstorm. Like, the only 2 cards he needs to put in this Doomsday stack are a Lab Maniac and a Brainstorm. And they just need to be in the top couple. And then he gushes, sacks his Lotus for the 3 mana for the Maniac. He preordains, uses his last mana for the Brainstorm. He actually he's going to wind up using every... Well, not quite every mana, because he's got the Fast Bond. He can replay the lands off the Gush. I wonder if he's worried about David's hand. Like, he doesn't... We know David's got a Tundra, so we stopped paying attention to Williams' ability to interact. Hypothetically, though, Williams could have... I guess he doesn't play Lightning Bolts. It's only a Mox Ruby. If he had a white mana untapped, he could have a Plow. Mindbreak Trap is the card that could destroy Menendian. Though it would have countered the Yogg-Will a million years ago. Yeah, I don't think Williams is going to have... I mean, that Menendian's going to have a whole lot of ability to defend this kill, but I don't think he's going to need... I don't think he needs it. He's got Force of Will anyway. Come on, Steve. Finish him off. Don't think this can possibly last more than about 3 more minutes. There's the Maniac. He put a Gush on top of his library. There's the Brainstorm. And Steve Menendian wins the match. Steve Menendian rejoins the Vintage Super League. David Williams came close. He came damn close to winning that match. That 3rd game, though, Steve just was able to stitch it together with a Brainstorm and a Ponder, and he waited till he could draw all the cards, resolved an Ancestral, and then just was able to just bootstrap and snowball the game from there.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff for me to watch, certainly as a kind of a novice in the combo world. Obviously, the key moment being when he drew that Ancestral Recall, which then allowed him to kind of sculpt the Lethal Will.
Yeah. So there you see it. Menendian has the trophy. Menendian is back into the league, earning one of the 4 qualification spots. We're only halfway done with these win-and-ins, though. We still have 2 more win-and-ins coming out of the losers bracket. These are now players that have lost once, but this first section was double a limb. So Brian Kelly is about to play against Bob Maher. And then our nightcap, our finale, will be Shuhei Nakamura against David Williams. Don't go anywhere, guys. Stay tuned. We'll take a quick break, swap out our casters, and we'll be right back with Bob against Brian.